Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Get Well Soon XOXO. I'm your host, Maddie Manick, and today we are joined by Sydney Leach.
I was gonna say I haven't changed my name yet, so I still go by Swenson, but then I still go by Leach.
Like, it would have legally been correct. But.
Yeah, it just kind of depends. It's kind of bad. I'll be like, today's Leach. Yeah. Tomorrow it's back to Swenson. I haven't changed it. I'm lazy.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's a long process. But we had you on for almost
I think it was like a year ago almost.
Yeah, almost. Yeah, I think it was like February-ish.
Wow. I really don't remember. Yeah. I just know it's your old house.
Yeah. Yeah, but we have her back on today to be talking about body image and self-compassion. What was your title as a...
Since May of 2024, I now am like a CSW, so it's a certified social worker. Okay. That's what it is in Utah. Some places it's an MSW because it's a master's of social work or whatever. Once I get 3,000 hours and take a certain test, then I can be an LCSW, which is a licensed clinical social worker. Okay. But currently just a certified social worker, so technically not an intern anymore, just a therapist.
Yeah. Awesome. So a little different than last time we had her on. But I think this is probably gonna be a longer episode, so I think we're just gonna dive right in. So I kind of throughout the week gave her some of my questions that I was gonna be asking that she could think about. So we're just gonna go up from the very first one, which was kind of with understanding body image. What factors contribute to negative body image, would you say?
Okay, so first, so sorry if you know me at all, I normally don't sound nasally, but if you don't, then this is just what I sound like to you. So, what factors contribute to negative body image? Obviously societal, so social media, I think when we were growing up, it was a lot of we grew up a lot of 2000s and it was a lot of you gotta be thin, you gotta be skinny, you gotta exercise, you have to it's not bad to exercise, but sometimes it was to the extreme, or they always were look at this new diet and you can lose this much weight or whatever. Yeah. And then also I would say mental and emotional factors and physical. So society can change your way of thinking and it can be more negative towards yourself. And then you have the emotional and mental factors that block in your mind that you're not good enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not skinny enough. In order to be good or be good enough, you have to be a certain weight, you have to be a certain size, you have to lose a certain amount of weight, you have to look a certain way. And then even though society's getting better at hey, actually, more body positivity, more plus size options, less of hey, maybe work out because it feels good and good for your mental health instead of do it because you hate your body. Yeah. Even though that's getting to the point, a lot of us still have the mental, emotional idea of this person must not like me because they're skinny and I'm not. Or, oh, they must have obviously noticed that I am chubbier than them or whatever. And so I feel those are some factors. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, definitely a sort of conditioned
it's called learned thinking. Yeah. So I think that's why our parents, both of our parents have, moms mostly, have dealt with weight stuff or dieting stuff, exercise stuff, all of that stuff, and they just grew up at the time of if you don't do you will die, type of thing. So then they probably not meaning to push it onto us of we gotta be skinny, we gotta be good. And so then now that society's less of no, this isn't that big of a deal, we already learned it. Yeah. So now people come to therapy, and I mean I'm still unlearning lots of stuff, but people come to therapy to try to unlearn a little bit of hey, yeah, it's great to exercise for your mental health, it's great to exercise because your body needs it, don't exercise because you hate your body, exercise because you like your body, type of thing. Exactly. So it takes a minute to unlearn. Yeah.
So relearning it.
Yeah.
Okay, and so the next one was kind of in the sense of challenging those negative thoughts that we've been conditioned to think about ourselves. What strategies would you say that we could use to challenge negative thoughts about our bodies?
So there's literally a term it's called cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, called like challenging negative thoughts, which is funny that you said that because so they're called cognitive distortions, thinking errors, thinking traps. They're these things that our brain does trying to help us, but turns out it's actually not, so it's a trap.
Okay.
So I'm gonna just pull up this image a tiny bit because I made it small so I could like put it on there, but then now I need to actually see it. Okay, so these are some thinking errors. There's filtering, which is like focusing solely on negative and ignoring all positives. So it's kind of like, oh, I got one negative comment and 30 positive comments. Everyone must hate me.
Yeah.
Type of thing. Or overgeneralization. I did this. We were flying out to go see my husband and I were flying to Colorado to go see my sister and my brother-in-law and go to a Avalanche game. And we were supposed to fly on Frontier. And the weirdest thing, we were supposed to board, and they're like, oh, but we hit a bird, so we can't. And we were like, what? And Colby explained, my husband did aviation mechanics school, so he explained what they had hit, but it's called the pitot tube. Anyway, they hit it. They can't know airspeed, so we can't go on the plane because it's not safe. But my overgeneralization is don't fly Frontier, they'll cancel your flight.
Okay.
And I'm like, I've been on plenty of Frontier flights that haven't canceled my flight. Mm-hmm. And like, also, Salt Lake is not a hub for Frontier, so like, if this had happened in Denver, it would have been fine because it was just on another plane. Frontier just isn't, there's not a lot of them in Salt Lake. So that's an overgeneralization, as Frontier cancels your flight. Okay. Catastrophizing. That's like the worst case scenario. I know you used to struggle with that. I mean, it's an ongoing, you have to unlearn it type of thing. So you just assume the worst case, and if our parents are out of town, we call our mom, they don't answer, and it might be, oh wow, they're at the beach. What if a hurricane happened? What if they got eaten by a shark? Mm-hmm. Then you're like, she's not answering, and my dad's not answering, and that's probably, so you are like on the verge of planning the funeral. And then you're like, they answer, and you're like, oh, maybe they lost service. Maybe they are busy. Maybe. So those are some negative thinking patterns, and how to challenge them is, it's like putting your thoughts on trial. That's literally what they call it. So going through this, is there evidence against my thoughts? So like, she's not answering, she must be dead. Mm-hmm. Okay, is there evidence against this? Okay, have you ever not answered your phone? Yeah, I didn't have service. I was busy. My phone died. Mm-hmm. I was at the movies. Like, my phone was turned off. Those are reasons that, like, there's a chance that she just turned off her phone. She's not able to answer. Yeah. What would a rational friend or family member say about this thought? So if you called me and you were like, my mom's dead. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, what happened? You'd be like, well, she hasn't answered her phone. I'd be like, okay. And I probably would also be like, well, my mom's not answered the phone before, and it didn't mean that she died, type of thing. And then, am I worrying about something that I can't control? So sometimes we're worried, oh, I'm not going to get into this college, so I'm just thinking this worst case, I'm going to have a different line. And it's like, we did what we could. We're just waiting to hear back if we get into college. Yeah. So like, we can't do anything. So we're just worst case scenario. We're doing the worst case scenario. So our mind is like, if you're prepared, you'll feel better. Mm-hmm. If our mom randomly died, we wouldn't feel better. Yeah. We're not going to know what to do. Yeah. And then if you looked at the situation positively, would my thought be different? If I thought, oh, maybe my mom, like, maybe she's alive, it's kind of like, oh yeah, like, realistically, that probably could be the case. Like, my mom has not answered the phone before, and she's not dead. Yeah. And then, is this thought helpful, or is it causing me stress? And it's kind of like, okay, thinking my mom's dead, thinking I didn't get into college, thinking all this stuff, that's causing me stress. And this one's good. Will this thought matter 6 months from now? Will it matter 1 year from now? Like, that one time your mom didn't answer the phone, that's not really like, this isn't going to be a core memory. Of course, in the event something drastic did happen, you're not ever going to be prepared for it. And another thing that's not on here that I like to do is like, let's cross that bridge if we come to it. Yeah. So like, you know what? Parents don't live forever, but that's far down the line. Mm-hmm. Let's start worrying when they're on hospice, when they actually get an actual thing from the doctor saying, let's prepare. Yeah. Like, our parents are young. If something happens, we're not going to be prepared type. Yeah.
Because, like, I like to, with that kind of stuff, I always like to think, like, worrying is only going to cause me to go through the emotions of, like, that thing twice, because...
Right. You're not going to be prepared. Yeah. So now it's like, oh, wow, I'm doing all the emotions of my mom dying, and you're doing that 5 times a week until she actually dies. And it's like, you know what? Let's wait until you actually have to go through that. Mm-hmm. And certain situations you might not ever have to go through, such as like maybe parents dying. We usually will outlive our parents because we're younger. But like a situation of not getting into the college. If you get into the college, you don't have to worry about it. Mm-hmm. I already did that with getting into the UVU master's program. I remember like telling Colby, like, if I don't get in, like, I'm SOL. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And he's like, why don't you just wait? Yeah. I'm like, because I have to be prepared. And then I got in and I'm like, oh, imagine. Yeah. So, silly goose.
I have that in common.
Yeah, I think it might run in the family. Yeah. So that's kind of, and then another thing that I thought of is challenging the negative thoughts. If someone ever says something to you where you're like, they say, oh, actually your hair is not really that cute or something. And you're like, I need to change my hair. But it's this person on the street. Yeah. I think it was a quote I saw or something. If you wouldn't go to this person for advice, like, would you, like, why are you listening to what they have to say? If it's if it's like your mom and you're getting married and she's like, your hair is messed up. Yeah. For sure. Uh-huh. It's in a nice way. It's not like, but like, and you're going to your mom for advice. Yeah. If it's just like this lady who you don't really know, or like, it's like the person that lives down the street who just says their opinion about stuff, you're not going to go to them and like, hey, we're deciding if we should get married. And she's just like, no, you shouldn't. Like, what do we even care what she has to say? Exactly. No, I like that. Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. That's kind of the same way to recognize and reframe harmful thoughts about themselves. Because you're going to ask, like, how can someone recognize and reframe harmful beliefs about themselves? Is recognizing those cognitive distortions. So knowing about them and recognizing, hey, I'm doing the worst case scenario. Mm-hmm. Let's cross that bridge if we come to it. Or, hey, I am labeling myself as negative. I only went through a few cognitive distortions because you can look them up, thinking errors. There's a ton of them. We do a lot of them. So, when you know that, like, hey, this isn't actually a helpful thought. It's not realistic and it's hurting my feelings. When you notice them, you can catch them. And catching them it feels better when you're like, hey, I'm doing the worst case scenario. This probably isn't likely. It still takes time. But if you don't even notice it, you're like, no, this is probably true. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not helpful. So being able to catch it. So when you know better, you do better. Yeah. Type of thing. Yeah. Yeah. So. Okay. And then moving into like self-compassion area, in the sense of like building self-compassion. What does self-compassion look like in practice, especially regarding body image? So a lot of the time people who have like very negative body image, like so much that they just feel like they are worth nothing or that their body's disgusting. Mm-hmm. Some things that they start out with is body neutrality. So it's not even I love my body, those kind of affirmations, and I love how I look. It's more of I have a body. It's not good or bad. It does what it needs to. Yeah. It helps me so I can keep going. It's a body. It is just is. Yeah. And so that can be a good way for self-compassion regarding body image when it's really negative. And then I would say like positive affirmations and finding things you like about yourself. Mm-hmm. Even if you have fake eyelashes, if you're like, I love my eyelashes, that's something. Yeah. Or like, I used to make my husband, we would say things like every night I would make him say something, like we both would do it, but it's really hard for him to say something he likes about himself. Mm-hmm. And his family ages really well. So sometimes he's like, I'm happy I can't grow facial hair because when I'm 60, I'll look 40. And that is true. His aunt really is 62 and looks like she's 40. Good way to, yeah. And so that's the thing is he's like, I'm happy I can't. Or like, he'll be like, I guess I have good calves. And if I force him to like think of something he likes, if you make it like, I have to do this. Because if you're just like, think about something you like, you're like, no, I don't want to. I hate myself or I hate my body or whatever. Yeah. So being able to think of things that you're like, oh, I do like this. If I had to think of something. Yeah. Like one thing I always have liked is my hair because it dyes well. It really, for the most part, does what I want it to. Mm-hmm. If I want it straight, if I want it curly, if I want it crimpy, like it does it. And one thing, it is dry, but I'm like, we live in Utah. Yeah. Hair's dry. It's unavoidable in Utah. Yeah. It is I was going to say the desert. And I'm like, it
Yeah.
really is the desert.
I was telling Hannah that I did like this oil, like just like
treatment thing,
like mask thing the other night, like in the room, like soaked my hair. And I was almost thinking like, this is gonna be like greasy, like even after I wash it and stuff. And I was like, oh, I was a little nervous. Next day, you wouldn't even know it was dry.
You're like, hi, I have broom hair. Yeah. That's what I think of, is that old broom of like, that is my hair, right? I'm like
well,
I'm like,
guess I could have even done more.
Yeah. No, I remember I one time when I was in 6th grade I was thinking you're supposed to put oil in your hair, but I put canola oil. Oh. Like, I put it on my hair and I was like, this is not the right kind of oil. No one was home and I washed it out and told no one until just now.
Yeah. I mean, it might have done something. It's still oil.
I don't know. I'm like...
As long as you didn't straighten your hair once you did that.
Oh, no. Smells like fried. Anyway, so...
Okay,
I think now we're talking about kind of right there.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
Sorry, we have to have the notes because the ADHD is bad.
Yeah, I will not even know what I'm talking about if I don't. Okay, so could you guide me through exercises to cultivate self-compassion?
So I think having the idea that there's not any rules, like I feel like we kind of grew up, I definitely know me and you did, because we were like in the rules of like, no, you can't, you have to drink this much water, you have to do this, you have to do that. And I mean, they're good outlines sometimes, but sometimes it's like, you learn to have like, I have these certain rules, I have these certain expectations, like if this person on TV did this thing and they lost 40 pounds in 2 months, I'm supposed to do it and I should lose 40 pounds in 2 months. Or like, just because you start to develop the guilt and the shame of like, I'm not good enough. Why is it not working?
Why is it not working for me?
Like, it worked, but then I gained it back. Or like, what is happening? And so I think having that kind of exercising, like just non-judgmental, just feeling your feelings, just like realizing that like doing things for your body because you love it, not because you hate it. Like, because our mind bullies our body so bad.
Oh, yeah.
Like, and part of it, and I don't necessarily think that's always the case. I think some people, if they grow up, I do think it is some factors just like because of how society is, even though it's getting better, I think maybe not, but because I can't regrow, but like, I just always feel like there's always in the back of my mind, like you see someone and you're like, oh, they're skinnier than me.
Yeah.
And then you move on and you're like, okay, but like, instead of doing that and being like, hey, you know what? They're smaller than me. Like, I've met people who are in way better shape than I am, like way more than me, because they're taller than me. I'm short.
Yeah.
Or like, they work out and muscle is heavier than fat.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't really work out. Or like that kind of thing where just because one weighs more than me doesn't mean they're not as healthy. Like, I eat a lot of crap sometimes. So I'm like, it's not that I'm like the healthiest, but like, I feel like I can hide weight better. Like, I remember telling my mom my weight one time and she's like, really? Like, you don't look like you weigh that. And I'm like, thanks. But like, that doesn't necessarily mean I don't type of thing. So one of the last exercises, I think, I just realized I'm all over the place, but it's called 30-second mindfulness. I learned this from a TED Talk in school, and I implement this so often now in my own life and other people. So I'm going to explain it roughly. Basically, you notice the things around you, and you can do this in the car, on the train. You can do this in public and in your head, or you can do this at home out loud. I did this actually in LA at the airport because I was so overwhelmed. Basically, you notice things around you, and you say what they are, and you breathe in between. So I'll do it right now. So, this is a water bottle. Then you breathe, hold it, and breathe out for about 10 seconds. So, sick. This is a laptop. This is a phone. And obviously, normally when I do it, I'm not sick, and so I can breathe a little better. And that was a little sped up version, but that's what you do. And you just do it in threes, and it helps you ground yourself. It doesn't mean that you're not worried about your body. It doesn't, but it helps you be like, hey, I'm okay. Like, it helps you just kind of calm down, and it's good for a lot of senses.
Yeah.
And I think just being like, hey, like, I'm here. like, my body is not defining me. There's way more interesting topics than my weight or my size or the scale or anything like that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, I'm still learning. Those are just some things that I kind of do, is just trying not to have the shame about it, trying not to have the judgment, and just trying to be like, I am who I am. I'm a nice person. Usually people, I definitely care more about that.
Yeah.
About people being nice. I've met plenty of people who are not super skinny that are nice, and plenty of people who are not super skinny and aren't nice. Like, it doesn't, your weight doesn't define if you're nice or not.
Yeah.
You could be, no matter your size, your personality can be entirely different.
Yeah.
So.
And, like, when you just said that, like your thoughts and stuff don't define who you am, it just reminded me, I watched the second Inside Out the other day, and when they said that at the end, have you seen it?
I haven't, but I don't know why, because so many clients of mine have been like, that's the best.
It's so good.
I really do want to watch it. Colby's just never seen the first one.
Oh, yeah.
So we were dog sitting, and Lacey has it, and so he's like, we should watch it. I'm like, you gotta watch the first one.
Yeah, you have to watch the first one.
Yeah.
But they say, it's not like a big spoiler.
No, you're fine, you're fine.
They do say in the end.
Clients spoiled it.
like when kind of she's freaking out, like with anxiety, because that's one of the new emotions.
Right, that's a big thing about it, is like really kind of, and I think it shows really well what anxiety is.
Yeah, it really did. And so, like, when she's got kind of having like a panic attack and stuff, and like, they're like, I think one of them says it to the other one, like
one of the emotions says it to the other.
Like you're like, we don't get to decide who Riley is. Like, anxiety, you don't get to decide who she is. And I literally, and I'm going to do it right now, I was like tearing up, because that's just like how I felt like sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, it is like, anxiety will wreck you. Like, and not just anxiety, like lots of mental health stuff, like it will wreck you. And like, if you let it control you, it will. And like, but that's the best thing about being a therapist, is people coming in and realizing like, you are this is going to be the start of something new. And like, you get to make it like however you want. Like, if you want to put in the work to make it better, and like, some people have to be medicated, some people don't. Some people do really well with therapy. Sometimes they need different kind of therapists. And like, that's like the best thing about therapy, is realizing that like, it doesn't get to define you. It doesn't get to like determine how you are, type of thing.
Yeah.
So
I love that, and that reminded me of it.
Yeah. I love that you just teared up, because I feel like it just makes it real how like real this podcast is. Because I'm sick, and like, we're having a moment.
Definitely raw. There's no editing.
No editing here.
You're getting it all. So I was gonna move into coping mechanisms. I think we kind of talked about that, so I'll just do the first one.
Yeah.
So, what healthy coping mechanisms can someone develop to deal with negative body images these days? Which
gotcha.
Might be a lot of kind of what we're going to talk about. But
so, I would say coping mechanism, a lot of the mindfulness, the 30-second mindfulness, that can help you kind of calm down. I also would say like journaling is huge, and it doesn't have to be writing. Like, some people are just all like, I have to have a cutesy journal, right? Yeah. That I've been journaling since I was 12. I'm on diary number 7. Oh. So, and I ebb and flow. The year I met Colby, I was writing in it all the time, because I was like, how does he feel? So, and now, like, sometimes I'm like, it's been a while, I'll write, or whatever. Yeah. But I think journaling, and if it's hard for you to journal just how you feel, just what's going on in your mind, it's not for anyone to read. I mean, I guess if you want people to read it, but like, and you can type it, you can write it, you can do a voice recording, just getting it out. It's like a free therapist, really. Like, just being able to like, here's how I feel, and like, I'm really struggling with my body image in this way. Another thing I love to do with journaling is journal prompts on like Pinterest. Pinterest is partially all the things I send for clients. I always tell them it's from Pinterest, but like, Pinterest saves me. But just journal prompts of like, hey, what's something you like about your outfit? What's something you like about your body? And it just helps you. And it's really kind of like talking to a therapist, and it helps you realize, wow, this is really hard for me to talk about. And so it helps you, hey, maybe sometimes it's, I can't do it on my own. I do need to talk to a therapist. And sometimes it's, I'm doing well on my own, and I'm just working through the motions and answering the journal prompts and that kind of thing. I send clients journal prompts all the time, because I'm like, here, this is your homework. Just think about these. You don't have to write it down.
Yeah.
But if you're actually spending time and thinking about it, and maybe you are journaling, maybe you're typing, maybe you're doing a voice recording, or maybe you are just taking time by yourself to really think about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think journaling is really good. Other coping mechanisms. So their distractions can be good and bad. Distractions can be good if you are on the verge of having like a panic attack.
Okay.
You're like, I need a distraction. We talked in the last one about me having panic attacks sometimes about throat phobia stuff.
Yeah.
So sometimes it is good for me to take that hydroxyzine medicine and it makes me tired and it's like, let me just do something else so I can go to sleep.
Yeah.
And then the next day I have to get back to when I wake up, I have to get back to real life and like process it. But like I was so heightened emotions that it's like, I can't right now. I will like, it feels like you're going to die type of thing. But, so distraction in that way can be good if you're like, especially people with suicide ideation, if they're like, I am so depressed right now. If like all I can do is stir in my thoughts and like, I'm going to do something. Okay. Yeah, for sure. Distractions can be good. But when it's like, a lot of the time people go through trauma and they like really act like it's not happening. They're like, oh yeah, I just work all the time. Mm-hmm. Or like, oh yeah, I just like, they basically just act like it never happened. Like they suppress it. At a certain point, it comes up in other ways. So it's, someone used this example and I can't remember if I used it last time, but it's like throwing things in the back of a car and then you slam on the brakes and everything comes flying forward. Yeah. Like at some point you have to slam on the brakes and like things come flying forward and then you have to deal with it then. Yeah. So sometimes it's good that like right now I have to throw it back. I can't. If someone's in like a situation, like a domestic violence, getting out of that situation, you cannot process the trauma as you're living it. Yeah. But when you get out of it, like it's still there. Yeah. It doesn't mean it didn't happen. So distractions can be good, but they also can be bad. Getting outside, even if it's cold outside, even just like this room's nice because it has a big window, but like going outside for a minute, getting fresh air, even if it's not sunny outside, just being outside for a minute, getting fresh air, but like doing exercise too can really help with like the body image thing, because it's not necessarily don't do it because you're like, I have to get skinnier, but like, hey, work your body and think about stuff. And you could do it by yourself. You could do it with a friend. You could listen to music. You could just listen to whatever. Yeah, exactly. So those are some coping mechanisms I kind of can think of at the time. What do I have here? Okay. Oh, yeah. So this is just something I would send to a client. It's observing your thoughts. So like, just like sitting with yourself when you're feeling really negative, noticing what do I feel in my body, like the sensations, because that's one of the best ways to figure out that you're actually feeling like emotions. Because sometimes that's how I can tell. Like I'll be like, okay, I have a pit in my stomach. Yeah. Why do I have a pit in my stomach? I'm like, okay, well we were talking about this. Oh, you know what? We w're talking about this, and my husband said that he's not going to that, and he said he was. So now I'm sad about that. So now I'm like, okay, I need to squash it. So then I'm like, tell my husband, hey, this is how I'm feeling. Sometimes it's, hey, we talked about this and now I'm really sad about my body. It's like, okay, now we do the affirmations. Hey, my mind doesn't get a bullet in my body. I'm a great person. And like sometimes the thinking errors come up and you're like, no, you're not a great person. And it's like, where's the proof? Yeah. Okay, well, I have a ton of family who loves me. I have people who have said they liked my outfit today. Like, I know I have people in my corner. Like, I know like all of us cousins don't talk to each other all the time, but I know like if we ever need anything, like we're for sure can reach out type of thing. Yeah. So that kind of thing, just like feeling it in your body. And then, here's some other coping skills. So journaling, challenging internal fat phobia. So sometimes the reason that we have a lot of the negative feelings about body image is because it's being like fat phobic is like you personally think that being fat's bad. Yeah. Like you think being overweight, you think being bigger, that's bad. Yeah. And so it's hard to convince yourself it's not when you still think that. So challenging that, getting rid of food restriction. So it's okay if you're kind of like, oh, I'm trying to eat healthier. But when you're like, I can't eat this. I can't eat that. I like refuse to eat that or whatever. Doing physical activity that you enjoy. Yeah. Like for my husband, he plays slow pitch softball. He doesn't love going to the gym, but he likes playing slow pitch softball, and it is a workout. And so he loves doing that. And then, if you struggle to like wear a swimsuit. If it's summertime, you can go out and like, let's do water activities that you enjoy. It's okay if you don't want to just sit out in your swimsuit, but like, hey, yeah, let's go to the pool. Let's go play like pool volleyball. Like just doing things you like and wearing something that you feel comfortable in. It doesn't have to be, I'm supposed to look good in this, so I'm just gonna wear the super tight swimsuit that I don't like. Or like, I don't like how I look, so I'm gonna wear the super baggy thing. If you don't feel comfortable, just wear what you want. Like just feel like wear what you feel comfortable in. Oh, there we go. Thinking of your body as an instrument rather than an ornament. Okay. So like it's here to do things, not to just look pretty. Yeah. And then ditching conventional beauty standards, like that's the thing of like, oh, you know, I am going to the pool, but like I don't have any makeup on. And it's like, you're going to the pool. It's okay if you don't have makeup on. Like, don't wear makeup if you don't want to. That was today. I don't feel good. And I told my husband, should I put makeup on? And I was like, I never wear makeup.
Yeah, no, especially when I'm sick, because then I'm just blowing my nose and it's just like,
and I'm like,
getting off.
I rub my eyes so bad. Yeah. And I'm like, no. Yeah. And I told my husband, I'm like, all I wear is eyebrows. So I'm like, I'm not going to pretend I wear makeup. Sometimes I do wear makeup, but I'm like, I'm not going to put on makeup to act like I wear makeup all the time. I'm like, I don't want to, so I'm not going to. Exactly. And then kind of sometimes grieving the loss of like the thin ideal and kind of being like, hey, it's okay that I'm not going to get to the size. That size, I could still be unhappy. Yeah. Type of thing.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
I feel like we've kind of covered these ones just in like what we've talked about.
Yeah, I think we've covered that. Yeah. I guess for triggers and stuff, some common societal influences on body image. Social media obviously plays a toll. Yeah. And trends. Sometimes trends are like right now, I think low-rise pants are in. Yep. And that's just something that I'm like, I already just don't like low-rise pants. Yeah. Like, I'm like, not for me. Okay. Like, yeah. And then like puberty, I know that's really hard because sometimes you still have the baby fat, or sometimes like you developed a lot faster, so it's like you have boobs, but like your body's not really matching up and that kind of thing. And puberty is just hard. Yeah. And then I would say like trauma and abuse, bullying, teasing, that kind of thing. Yeah. There's just like common ones where like, especially people who've been in like sexual abuse, like they can be very uncomfortable with their body because they're just like, I don't understand why this all happened, and until you process it, sometimes it's just something you have a problem with.
Yeah, exactly.
So some problems with body image come when like you start to base your worth on like your body, like on the opinions of others. Mm-hmm. So if someone's like, "Oh, you don't look good in that," you're like, "You're right, I don't." But if you're like, "Well, I think I look good," or like, "I like how I look," then it's like, "Why do you care?" Yeah. Yeah, you view the purpose of your body as an object to be desired. So like, oh, I have to look this way so that people will want me. Yeah. And like people will like my body. And it's like, well, just dress how you want. Yeah. Type of thing. And then one last thing is body checking. That is like scales and like what is the measurement things? Yeah. Like the not a ruler. What a tape measure. God. I'm a ruler.
So, like when I'm recording, I feel like words just leave my brain. Like words that I know every other day. That I'm like, what's that? Oh, like
I swear I could be thinking about the word. Like I could be reading it in my head, but I'm like ruler, and I'm like, that's not what I said. But yeah, like doing that kind of thing. I remember when I was first starting, I shadowed someone, and she was my old supervisor. She was talking to a different client about who had an eating disorder, and they literally will go to the doctor. They're scared to go to the doctor because of getting weight. Oh yeah. And she was like, "You can tell the doctor
not to show you.
Hey, don't show me. Mm-hmm. I have a history of eating. Yeah. If you want to tell me, I have a history of disordered eating. Yeah. So I prefer not to tell you. Yeah. Like for you to tell me. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I'll go. Like I went to the doctor recently, and I was like, "Oh yeah, like I do weigh more," and then I'm like, it's okay.
Yeah, that was me this last time. I was like, I have my shoes and all my clothes on.
Yeah, no, I do have to like I have to really talk myself down because I do get sad. Like, and I'm like, I'm okay. You're fine. Yeah. I'm like, people ebb and flow. Mm-hmm. Like the scale. Like, and I'm like, and it's okay. Like, people love me whether or not like I weigh more. Like, I'm okay. And I really have to like talk myself down. Yeah. And then, oh yeah, we're at the end. Yeah. These last ones. Okay.
So, maybe let's do. So, what role can friends and family play in one's journey towards self-acceptance?
Okay. Well, I would say the role that people can play, I think it can be really positive, really negative. Mm-hmm. So, I think I didn't really think I was going to share this. A family member of mine, when I was younger, like, was worried, like, oh yeah, like, we should lose weight together. Let's, like, lose weight and, like, let's diet together. And I'm younger, so I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And then I realized, like, I don't actually think, and I've talked to them now and, like, we've squashed all of it. But, like, I really feel like they were like, I'm overweight. I don't want you to be overweight. And so, like, they were doing it out of, like, I'm here to help. But in turn, it made me, like, because they felt crappy about their body. Because they were overweight. So they were like, I don't want you to feel crappy. In turn, it just made me feel crappy anyway. But, like, the reason it didn't hurt as bad is because I'm like, you know what? They really didn't mean harm. They really were, like, not trying to hurt me. But we squashed it. But, so, like, if you've ever read that book, I'm Happy My Mom Died, or I'm Glad My Mom Died, by Jeanette McCurdy, her mom had a lot of feelings about, like, you need to be small, you need to be skinnier, and so that she kind of taught her how to have an eating disorder. And so, like, they can have negative role, but they can have a positive role if you have, like, supportive people who are, like, not fixating. I feel like Lacey has been one of the best people. I remember Grandpa one time had said something, and she's like, no, we're not talking about weight or size or anything. Like, we're not talking about that. And she's just very good about, like, having boundaries. It's like, no, we're not talking about that. That's not important to talk about. And so I feel like out of all the things she's done, she's always been a good role model. So, and then I had wrote down Dr. Seuss quote because something that's good for boundaries is be who you are and say what you feel, because those who mind don't matter and those who matter don't mind. So if you're yourself and people don't like you because they think you're too fat or whatever, like, they're not for you. And if they are, like, if they're people who are in your life, they shouldn't care. Your weight, your size, whatever. And I use that quote for everything, not just my image, but I never thought when I was obsessed with the Dr. Seuss quotes when I was 14 that it was really going to come back for therapy. I guess last thing is we can talk about resources. So there's this book. I actually haven't read it yet, but I just got it, and I've had a few people who are therapists recommend it. It's called More Than a Body, and I think it just talks about how you're just more than a body. And then basically anything by Brene Brown, but she's LCSW, but one of my favorite is The Gifts of Imperfection. It helps a lot with OCD, shaming. It helps a lot with shame and just feeling like you're supposed to be one thing when, like, that's not what you're supposed to be. You're just here for, like, life, and you're not here to, like, be put on a pedestal and, like, try to be perfect and everything. I guess it's called The Gifts of Imperfection. And then I would just say, like, anything is, if you can't get to the body positivity, you start with body neutrality. Just be like, I have a body. Because sometimes it's really hard to look at the mirror and be like, yeah, I like myself. Especially if you don't have clothes on. You're like, no, I actually hate myself. I remember that was one of the first things when I realized I had body image issues, is I had a therapist who's like, before you get in the shower, just lick yourself for 2 minutes. And I literally was like, but, like, 30 seconds in, I'm like, hi. And so that was something where I was like, hey, yeah, there's times where I'm like, yeah, sometimes I do wish I was smaller, or sometimes I do wish I was more fit, or, like, those pants I outgrew, I'm sad. But I'm like, you know what? I'm okay. I'm a good person. Like, I have to kind of talk myself down, and I think it's a marathon, not a sprint, and I don't know if we ever finish. I don't know if when I'm 90, I'm still going to be like, this is the best thing ever, because I feel, and I don't know, it's a different time, but I hope when I'm 90, I could give less than two craps about it. But you never know. Yeah, that's kind of everything I have to say. And I obviously am not an expert. Like, even when I'm in therapy, I tell people I'm not an expert. These are just things that I have found to help, things that I've run across.
Yeah, no, I feel like you've made a lot of good points. So
yeah.
Thank you so much for doing this episode with me and bringing all of your amazing insight and points in. I feel like that was very, like for me, I feel like that made, like, a lot of stuff that I'm like, okay, like,
you're like, okay, we're doing good. Like, that's the thing is, you're doing as best as you can, and sometimes, like, especially people who, like, have eating disorders and stuff, like, you're doing as best as you can, and, like, reach out for help. That's one thing. Eating disorders can be very scary. And so, like, reaching out for help is hard, but, like, it sucks. Like, reaching out for help, especially when it's going to have to change everything you kind of believe in. But, like, it's for the best. So that's hard, but usually therapy's for the best.
Yeah, no.
So
I'm a big believer that therapy can help like a lot of people.
I think it can help anyone at any point. Like even if it's not like I have all this trauma, it's just like I need to talk to someone.
Yeah, exactly.
Or like
unbiased. Like
I have this situation that like is really pissing me off, and like I just need to talk to you about it. Or sometimes it's like, hey, I'm fine, and then you talk more, and you're like, oh wow, this stuff kind of all puts together, and it actually is hard.
Yeah.
And like life's hard right now, so like sometimes it's just like, yeah, inflation sucks, and like I'm sorry that this is where we're at in the world. Like I'm sorry. Yeah. Like it's okay to just be like, I'm here with you.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like we're together.
Yeah. Okay, well, I would have to say that's kind of it for this episode. So, thanks everyone who stuck around to this point. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this episode as much as I have.
Yeah.
And I've enjoyed having Sydney on again.
I'll be back in 8 months.
Sooner than that.
Yeah. The more things I think I like to, I mean, mental health always ties into yours, but I think this ties in a little bit better. Yeah. So the more things I get trained on, the more experience I have, I'll just keep texting you and we'll plan something.
I love it. Yeah. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, little housekeeping as always. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, leave this episode or the podcast review if you haven't yet, because it helps me a ton. You can find me on Instagram as Maddie.Manic for my personal account, getwellsoon_XOXO for the podcast account. Already said that. Oh, wait, no. Yeah, Maddie.Manic for my TikTok, and then get.well.soon_XOXO for the podcast TikTok account. And then my YouTube is linked in my Insta and TikTok bio, as always.
You're saying this feels so fast.
Where can they find you?
Let me make sure I know my Instagram. No, that's okay. I think I know my Instagram, but then I was like...
That's why I have to write it down.
I don't. I forgot. I changed my last name for Leach on here. Yeah. So it's Swen Leach. So it's SYDSWEN, and then cuts off my last name to Leach. So LEACH. And I currently don't have TikTok. I was actually thinking I kind of want to make a Instagram for mental health stuff, but to be determined. So currently just Swen Leach.
Okay. Perfect. Awesome. But yeah, that's
bye everyone.
That's it for the episode. So thanks.
See you on the flip flop.
Don't forget to live your life beautifully, and talk to you next Wednesday.
Bye bye.